in operation again. Why it will appear in the operation again? Because it's a continual job. It's related to PDCA cycle, and it's not one-time job. Then we have to repeat this exercise usually to ensure that our risk management and the ISMS implementation is effectiveness and efficiency. Then clause number 9, and clause number 9, it was in the act phase, and it was the performance evaluation. And in performance evaluation, we mentioned that we have multiple sub-clauses. First one, it was monitoring and measurement. Number 2, internal audit. And the last one, it was management review. And again, I would like to remind you that all these clauses are the requirements. These are the requirements which you have to follow to be certified against 27001. Last clause, it was the improvement. And the improvement, we have the sub-clause for non-conformity and actions to correct. Can you remember what is the non-conformity definition? Anyone who still remember what did we explain yesterday?
Yes, Mr. So non-conformity is the controls that the company is not compliant with.
You are right. Not the controls, it is the requirements. Because unsatisfied requirements, because unsatisfied controls, it will be a different issue. We will cover this later. But you are right. It should be the unachieved requirements. You have some requirements in your organization and it's not achieved. And the last sub clause, it was the continual improvement. These are the clauses of 27001. And also yesterday we started in the annex as well. And we mentioned that in Annex A, we have 114 controls, and we are divided over 14 controls objectives, or in other words, sections. And we are distributed from A.5 till A.18, and we covered some of them yesterday, including the security policy, the organization, the VPN, cryptography, and a lot of other topics. And I remember we end the session with very interesting discussion about the encryption. What did we share, or we covered yesterday? I will share my screen now for the slides to start the today's session, inshallah, and it will be session, Annex 11. In Annex 11, it will cover the physical environment and protecting of physical environment. My friends, physical environment, it's really critical. And what do we mean by physical environment? You will find here in Annex 11, we have two different types of control: secure access and securing the equipment. When we're saying secure access, I does not mean in network secure access. I mean physical secure access. Take care. Now we are speaking about physical and environment security. Then this is the physical security. You have to protect the data center. You must have CCTV in your data center. You must have AC for the cooling. You must have cabinets, and must have closed cabinets and dedicated cabinets. You must have an access control. No one here should be able to log in without the proper authentication and make sure that he's authorized. Also, the data center, it should provide protection for the people. It should provide protection against any threats like fire, like flooding, like storms, whatever be all these types, but this it should be provided to make sure that the data center is secure. Also, you have to provide the physical access controls for the data center from outside the data center. There must be fence around the data center, there must be lighting, there must be data guards or security guards where we have to check the identity of each one who is coming near to the data center. Because just imagine the hacker, he spent maybe weeks till he will be able to collect some data, which we call it reconnaissance. You will collect some data during the reconnaissance phase to be able to access your network or hack your network. What about if he has the physical access to the data center itself, or physical access to the machines, or physical access to the desktop? Then this means that he will be able to log in and he will be able to capture a lot of data which he can utilize it in the attack. It may be remotely or it will be on site. Also, we have to provide securing for the equipments. You have a lot of equipments. It may be switches, it may be routers, desktops, data center equipments, and so on. We have to provide the appropriate protection for AC, for cooling, for humidity, for power supply. For example, when we say that you have to provide securing for your equipment, you have to connect the equipment into a continuous power supply. And for example, imagine that you have a data center with a single power source, which for example, it will be SCICO. Okay, but what will happen if SCICO is down? Then the whole data center, it will be down. Then what is the alternative? In Saudi Arabia, we don't have multiple sources of electricity. It's only SCICO. When SCICO may have two different power sources in the area, then you can utilize a connection from each one of them. Or if we don't have two connections, then we must have some sort of power generators, and you have to maintain this power generator to make sure that the power, it will be always on. Also, you have to make sure that the diesel for this power generator is available. You have to connect these machines also to UPS to make sure that there is no electrical sparks, which it can burn the machine, or any problem in the power, which it can affect the machine performance. Then these are the points which you have to take it in your mind for protecting your machines. Also, you will find one of the important points which it may be neglected by a lot of security engineers: the cables. Cable, it can be a source of data leakage. Can you tell me how a cable, UTP cable, normal cable, can be considered as a source of data leakage?
If it wasn't secure enough, anyone can access to the cable and connect to his own laptop and can access to all data.
Okay, this one of the points, but usually the cable, you will find that it will be extended under raised floor or over ceiling. But again, yes, it's a good point. But the main point, this is not the main point. The main point is the reconnaissance on the cable. The cable, by the end of the day, by France, it's considered as electrical signals, and the data, it's an electrical signal. Then if you are able to reconnaissance on the cable and you can intercept this traffic, then you will be able to know the data, because the data, it's transferred over the cable in form of 0 and 1s, and you will be able to capture this data. Because of that, we are saying you have to protect the cable from damage or interception. interception. This is the point which we are afraid of, that the data, it can be captured from the cable. And of course, now the new cables, UTP cable grade 7, it is shielded. And if it's shielded, then this means that you will not be able to reconnaissance the cable, because the shield, it will make the electromagnetic around the cable field equal 0. But if you don't have grade 7, then still you have this problem. And of course, fiber cable is secure, because fiber cable, it cannot be reconnaissance. It's very important to consider regular maintenance for the equipment. Very important, because of that in enterprise data centers, you will find that we will have something called maintenance schedule. Maintenance schedule. What is a maintenance schedule? It's pre-configured periods every year that the data center, it will be down for the normal maintenance. It can be patches upgrade, it can be cleaning the equipments, whatever the requirements or the needs for cleaning the maintenance, it will be done through these periods. Yani, for example, in some of enterprise customers in Saudi Arabia, they will have it on Saturday from 7 o'clock or 12 o'clock a.m. on Saturday till 7 or 8 o'clock a.m. When the data center, it will be down, service, it will not be available until they close or finalize the maintenance cycle. Okay, also you have to protect the equipment of premises. It does not mean that the equipment, if it will go outside the premises, that it should not be protected. You have to install one DLP, data loss prevention, or you have to make sure that these devices are allowed to go outside the offices remotely with the permission. You have to know who is handle these machines and what is the reason behind moving this machine outside the office, and so on. Finally, you will find another policy which is called clean desk. Do you know what is the policy of clean desk? Did you hear about this policy before? What is the clean desk policy? Any answer? Okay.
I have no idea, actually.
Fine. Okay. Clean desk, my friends, this is a policy for protecting data leakage. For example, I am working on a specific design for my company, and I am sitting on my desk, and I have this blueprint of the design on my desk, and I fed up. I am disappointed. I want to get a cup of coffee. I left all my paper on the desk and went to the coffee machine, get my cup of coffee, drink it, and go back to my office. This is considered as security violation. Why? Because I left critical information on the desk. When this means that anyone is passing by my desk, he can have a look on this design, and this is considered as confidential data. When this means that the data, it's leaked. Although there is no bad intention, It's done by good intention. But again, still the data, it's leaked. Also, another scenario for this, that I am sitting in front of my PC, and I opened an email from my boss or from the CEO, and he sent a presentation. This presentation consists of confidential data, and I am watching this presentation over 27-inch screen. When anyone is passing by my desk, you will be able to see this presentation, although it's confidential and it's sent only under NDA agreements, but whatever the user, he will be able to see this information, and the data, it will be leaked. Also, in some situations, we consider the protection of the desktop, or what we call it, the screen saver, clean desk policy. Because this means that anyone, if you forget to lock your machine and anyone come to the office, he would be able to log into your machine and read some information, and this information again may be critical and so on. When this screensaver, it will start, then it will be locked and it will require the password. And of course, password, it will be only with you. This is the annex for the physical and environment security controls. As you can see, it's covering the secure access and for the securing the equipment. Okay. In Annex 12, it's operational security. And operational security, we covered this topic before in the clauses, but here we are providing you about the controls. We will provide you the controls to enable the operational security. And we mentioned in operational security that you must have the processes, you must have the procedures, operation team, they must write down all the procedures, operation procedure, it should be documented, and these documents, it must be updated regularly, then you will be able to refer for it when you need it. Also in operational security, we mentioned that we need some ITIL management processes. One of them is change management, capacity management. These are the important management processes which is required for managing your operations. Also, you have to make the separation between the different environments, like the development, testing, operational. It's very important to have a different environment for the operations or the production, for testing, for development. Don't mix and match all of them in one environment, because this it can represent a threat. Just imagine if you want to test a new patch, you upload the patch on your operating system, server operating system, the server is hanged, then this means that your service is down. But if you are installed in the test environment, it's not an issue, because you will find out what was the problem, or you can contact the vendor, you can work on the case, you can solve it, then you can prepare the upgrade process in a proper way to be applied in the production environment. Also, the operational security team, we have to provide the malware and tech listing software and application. They have to provide antivirus or anti-malware, then to protect the desktops and the server against any possible attacks. One of the main important points also, the backup policy. Backup policy, it's very critical. Backup policy is very critical, and you must have a policy for the data backup. And it's not only the backup, you have to make recovery of the data. You know, one of the main nightmares which we are facing in the field, that when we have some operations on the servers or critical machines, and we're asking the administrators, do you have a backup? We may face any problem. Do you have a backup? Then it can be restored. Yes, of course, we have a backup. Usually what I am saying, did you recover this backup before? If he say no, I tell him, okay, hold on, we will not touch anything until you recover your data and make sure that it's up and running. Otherwise, please make a fresh backup now and recover it to ensure that we are having real backup. Because I don't want to say more than 50%. More than 50% of the cases, so when we try to recover the data, it's not recovered. You'll find the backup tape, it's not working, the media, it's not working, we have a problem in the backup, we faced the problem in the backup, and we have an old backup, we lost work for 1 day, 1 week, whatever the period which we lose the data. Then recovery, it's very, very important. And as we mentioned here, you must have regular testing. This is very important for the backups. Another issue which is very important for the logging and monitoring operational security, it's logging and monitoring. And as we mentioned, logging and monitoring is very important because it will improve the continual improvement and performance. And also it will be used for capturing the data. And as you remember, when we said that we have something called AAA. We explained this in the access control, which is authentication, authorization, and accounting. And the third A, it's for the accounting. And we said that this is very important because it's record all your activities. We are collecting all these activities, as you will see later, and we will import it into some solutions like SIM or whatever, any solution, and we are analyze it and make sure that your network is safe and there is no attacks. This information, it will be through the logging and monitoring. You have to install the software by trained administrators. This is very important. And usually when you say this to the administrator, he'll say, come on, do you think that to install Windows is a big issue? Yes, it is a big issue. How? Because for the Windows, if you did not install it in a proper way and the password, for example, when you make the installation password, you type 123 or password 123 or your name and 321 and all this stuff. This means that your operating system is not secure. I will be able to access it. Then people, we must be qualified. We must know how to configure the operating system. For example, we must know how to configure the machines. If you have a default password, it must be changed. If you have a default accounts, it must be renamed. You have to disable the unnecessary services. You have to disable the unnecessary applications and only leave the applications and services which are mandatory for your operations. Also, you may need a change management process, and change management process, it's one of the very important process required by organization because it will control any management in your configuration. It will not allow any changes in your infrastructure, even if it's software or hardware or processes or whatever, until it will go to the CAB, which is the change advisory board, and make sure that these changes are valid. It will not affect the network performance or the network, or it will not make any, it will not have any side effect. Then it will be safe, and we will implement these changes. And on the other hand, we will monitor these changes and make sure that they are achieve their requirements. Also, you must have management of the technical vulnerabilities. We will speak about this. We already spoke about vulnerabilities in the risk management, and we said that the vulnerabilities, they are weakness. They are considered as weakness in hardware, software, processes, whatever. And this weakness, it can be utilized by the threat to exploit and cause an attack. There are a lot of software in the market which it can scan your network for hardware, software, and check if you have any vulnerabilities. And also it will provide you the tools that you can discover these vulnerabilities and how you can mitigate them by suggest you to download some mitigation from the vendor sites. Then you will be able to solve these problems. Okay, any questions? Anybody home?
Yeah, we're with you, just no questions.
Okay. The Annex 13, it's the communication security. And in communication security, you will find that it will cover two different types of controls: network security management and information transfer. Network security management and information transfer. In network security management, it will cover the security of information communicated through the network. You have a network and you want to ensure that this data is secure during the exchange over the network. Then this, it can be by different ways. It can be using VPN encryption. It can using strong access control. You have a lot of scenarios which it can be used for protecting the exchange information over your network. Also, you have to make segregation in networking. What is segregation in networking? Segregation in networking, sometimes we are called zoning. We are called zoning. What is zoning? Anyone know what is the meaning of the zone or zoning?
I know the meaning of zone, which means like an area for a certain task or something.
Yes, you are very close. Usually we are dividing the network into three zoning. Usually we are dividing the network into three zoning. Yani, for example, here you will find the internet, and you will find here a router, which is connect the internet to the network. Then you will find a firewall, first firewall. Then for protection, we will have a second firewall. And finally, this firewall, it will be connected into the internal network. And here, this is internal network. You have servers, you have desktops, and so on. And I don't want to say even in this area, we can divide it into multiple segments as well, where this, it will be, for example, hosting the servers, this, it will host the desktop, this, it will be hosting any other equipments and so on. You can see here that this zone or this area in this area, we call it external zone. This is the area which connect your network into the internet. This is called external zone. This is the external zone. The zone between the two firewalls, we call it DMZ. What is DMZ?
Demilitarized zone.
Right, demilitarized zone. This DMZ, it is a buffer area. It is a buffer area between the internal network and the external network. It will host all the devices, which it should be accessed by internal user and external user, or internal resources and external resources. This means that if I want to access a database from outside, suppose that I am a user here sitting in my home and I want to access my scores in the university through a web server, then this means that it's not logic to allow the user to go direct like that into the database server. Of course not, because this means that it will represent a threat for this database. Then what I have to do, I have to install the server here. The web server, I have to install it here. Then I have to go through the internet connection into the web server, and the web server, it will be allowed only to connect to the database. Then this means that whatever any connection coming from the database, it will be from my internal network. It will not be from external network, because database server, it will not receive any connection from external user. It will be receive the connection only from the web server, which is under my control. And of course, this web server is in the DMZ, it's protected. I have here, as you can see, here we have the firewall 1, here firewall 2, it has IPS, it has anti-malware, it has all the protection for the file. Finally, the zone here, it's called internal zone. This which we call it internal zone. And this means that usually you will find 3 zones. In other more sophisticated, they will take the internal zone, and they split it into multiple zones. They will say, okay, we will have a zone for servers, we will have a zone for users, we will have a zone maybe for divisions and to split by division and so on. Okay, this for the network security management, and for the information transfer. Of course, information transfer it's a critical point, and it depends upon the data classification. Because if you want to transfer data through your network, we have to check what is the classification of the data. If the data is public, it's normal data. For example, some courses for UBM, and what are the courses which they are taught in the UBM, then this is it's not secret. Then I can share it even in clear text and publish it over internet. This is okay. But if I want to share some information like the students' scores or student contact information, and we have to protect the privacy and all this stuff, then this data should be encrypted. This data should be encrypted, and you must have strong access controls. As you remember yesterday when we explained the access controls, we said that we have the authentication. First of all, we have identification. Who are you? Authentication, prove your identity, authorization, what you are authorized to do, and finally accounting, what did you do over the network. Also, you can need to have the cryptography or the encryption of the data, and of course, it will depend upon the data classification. There is another point, my friends, and I don't know if you know about it or not. Did you hear about this expression before? NDA. NDA. What is NDA?
Do you mean the non-disclosure agreement?
Excellent. Non-disclosure agreement. What is the function of the NDA?
So basically, it's a confidentiality contract between the employee and the company, in which he or she is required to save the secrets of the company.
Perfect. Excellent answer. But I want to add one more point here, if you don't mind. It's not only an agreement with the employee. It can be agreement with a partner. It can be agreement with a vendor. It can be agreement with whatever any agreement. In general, it's an agreement. But of course, it can be used for employees, as we mentioned yesterday, in the human resources security. The employees will have to sign NDA, and they will not leak the information of their business. Or in some situation, you may have an agreement with a vendor or a partner, and you are sharing information with him, and you are connected to their network, and of course they have to log into your network, and we must have some data from your database or whatever. Then you have to sign an NDA with them, and this data, it will be secure, and you ensure that if this data is leaked, you will be able to seize them by legal cases. And the NDA, non-disclosure agreement, it's one of the most important things which you have to take it in your consideration. If I have resellers, if I have partners, whatever, the user or the entities which you have to share this information with them, and this information is considered critical or confidential, then you have to sign the NDA and to make it very clear that to protect your data. Okay. In A14, this it will be the system acquisition, development, and maintenance. This is very interesting topics, and as you can see that we are speaking about the security requirements in information security and in development and operations. Also for protecting test data. Okay, now suppose that you want to buy a new system. Then, what is the professional approach? Now, what I will say, it will be valid for system acquisition or development, whatever. Yani if you want to make or develop an application in-house or to buy a new system for your company. First of all, you have to define what are the functions and features do you require. Then you have to check the market and the proposed solutions. If they are matching your requirements and security requirements, great. You are in the safe side, and you will be able to get an application or system which it will fulfill your requirements. Otherwise, if you did not find, then this means that you have to make additional search or you have to check your requirements. It may be a little bit restricted and these requirements are not available in the market. Also, if you want to make any development for or in-house development for application, you have to make sure that the application, or not the application, I mean the libraries and the tools which you are using are secure. In some situations, most of the developers, they get the tools from the market and I mean from the internet, and they will use it. In some situations, it may have some malware applications, and I mean malware agents, and if you install it on the server, then it will start to collect data or leak data or destroy data or whatever. You have to make sure whatever any library or any piece of software which you downloaded from the internet and you want to utilize it in your system development, that it's safe and secure. This is very important. Or you have to depend upon the closed code application like Microsoft, .NET, whatever, because this code, it's not available with the users and no one he will be able to block any hacking tools or software inside these applications. You have to develop a secure development policy. Then you have to define what are your objectives and goals from developing inside the applications inside the company, and what are the principles. Don't use tools from the internet. If you are using tools from internet, then you have to make security scanning for it and so on. Then you have to define all these protections to make sure that you are secure. Also, you have to test the security of new development software and systems. Unfortunately, my friends, the point which, please, if you are planning to work in the software development in the future, please take it in your mind. Security must be in front of you from day one, from scratch. Don't think about functionality, and after you make the exercise and you develop the software and you install it in the production, you start to think about if it's secure or not. Security, it's not only one task after the application development. Security, it's a continuous part from scratch in every and each phase of the software development life cycle. Security, it must be there. It must understand the objectives. It must understand how the user it will be authenticated and authorized. It must understand the tools, the security, application security, and so on. This is very important, and I really appreciate if you take it in your mind. This it will be a very important point for you in the future. Also, one of the points which the ISO 27001 care about it is the test data. In some situations, this data, it can represent a threat. Why? As you remember in the last or previous annex, we said that it is better to split your network into multiple environments for testing, development, and production. In some situation, the organization, we are taking the data from production, put it in the test environment for testing application. If the test data contains any privacy or confidential data, it will be a problem, it will be a crisis. Then this means that this data, it should be modified to remove this data, or at least to ensure the proper security controls for the test data as well, to make sure that this is secure. Okay. We covered the Annex 14, which is the system acquisition and development. Of course, each one of them, you will find some controls for these points. And when the ISO 27001 inspectors will come, they will check, okay, we said that system acquisition. Do you have a list for your requirements? What are the security requirements? Development, how you get the libraries or tools? Do you make security scan for these tools and so on? Then these are some controls which we will go through it one by one. Any questions? Okay. In Annex A15, this will be the supplier relationship. And in supplier relationship, let me summarize the exercise in very simple words. In very simple words. First of all, as an organization, you have to classify your suppliers based on the information which we want to collect. This is number one. For example, some suppliers, they want to collect very simple information. Maybe company profile, maybe your products, your services, whatever. Then this is not any problem, because all this information, they can maybe even collect it from the internet. It's in your website or maybe on third-party websites. Then this means that the information may be classified as general use, for example. It's not a big issue. Then you have to classify the suppliers. You have other suppliers which you have and change data with them and processes interaction between your business and their business. Then in this case, this data, it can be classified as confidential. Then now you have some types of suppliers which required confidential data based upon your agreement with them. There are some others which they need only general business use data. And another category which it may have normal data, it's classified as medium secure or high secure. It's not critical but high. Great. Of course, as I mentioned before, security, it is an enabler for your application, for your business. Security, it's an enabler for your business. We are not stopping business. Then, if these are the agreements of the business, then we have to appeal with it. We have to agree and we have to work on it. Right. Now we classify the suppliers into three different categories. Suppliers who require confidential data, suppliers who require general use data, and another suppliers who require medium classified data. I have to define what are the organization's assets and the security, minimum security requirements. Minimum security requirements required from each type of supplier. I have to write down all the security requirements for each type of supplier. For example, one of the suppliers categories, it may be want to access confidential data. I have to say, okay, you must be ISO 27001 certified. This is our requirement. If you want to make business with us, you have to be ISO 27001 certified. Then classify the data. classify the suppliers, define security requirements with each supplier, and apply these security requirements with the supplier in the form of contracts. This is very, very important, my friends. You have to keep in your mind that whatever any security requirements, it just appear in the contract. The contract is very important. Conduct is very important. All this information must appear very clear as in the contract. Then whatever any requirements for security, you have to mention in the contract. Then if he was able to comply with these requirements, great, you can make business with him. If it's not, then you have to terminate the contract, and you will have the right to do that because he did not fulfill the contract's requirements. Of course, also you have to keep an eye on the vendor or the supplier. You have to keep an eye on your supplier. By the end of the day, when we are saying security, gentlemen, usually we are mean three different words or expression. I don't know if you know them or not. CIA. What is CIA? Of course, it's not, I don't mean the secret services of USA. This is a different thing. It's something in the security.
Confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Excellent. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Great. Type. Let me ask you very simple. What is confidentiality?
Secret. To keep the information secret.
Sorry, can you raise your voice? I cannot hear your voice, please.
To keep the information secret.
Okay, but I need more sophisticated expression.
That you are confident that no one beside the people that are allowed to see this information can see it.
Okay, confidentiality, very easy. Allow authorized persons to access the data. Only. This is very simple. Allow authorized persons to access the data, and disallow unauthorized persons from accessing the data. Very simple like that. Allow authorized persons. There is one misleading concept here. There is one misleading concept, and I want you to know it and to keep it in your mind. Subhanallah, you may remember this one day while you are in the field. When we say confidentiality, a lot of people will think about encryption. Am I right? Do you think about
Yes.
encryption when we say confidentiality?
Not necessary.
Sorry?
Not necessary.
Why? If you want to protect your data, how you will protect it without encryption?
I would say encryption is one of the methods that we can achieve confidentiality with.
Okay, fine. What you are saying now, what I can feel that most of you, we are agree that encryption, it is not the only method for protection. Fine, okay, great. Tell me another method. I am your customer and you want to advise me.
Maybe we can use the password also to make sure for confidentiality.
Okay, what else? Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate your input. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe put fake information. Put layers. First layer, put the
Excellent, excellent. Okay.
fake information.
Okay, all the answers are right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. I don't know if Dr. Naveed is with us in the meeting or not, but again, Dr. Naveed, I can confirm that this group of students, they will represent the next future security engineers in the market. I don't know if he's available with us or not, but anyway, I will send it to him as a message. Anyway, you are
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah, I'm here.
He's online with us. Excellent. Okay. You are right, you are right. You are right, my friends. Confidentiality does not mean encryption. Encryption, it's one of the tools. It's one of the tools. You are right. As Muayyad said, I can have the multiple security zones. And this means that I am protecting my data. I am hosting my data in internal network while the user is coming from the external zone. It's number one. And as your friend, she said that I want to use password, right? Because this is authentication. I can utilize the strong access control. Then you will not be able to access the data except if you are using, for example, 2FA, two-factor authentication. And this means that you are secure. Yes, you are right. All the solutions which you provided, it was a solution were right. There is no need to say it's just encryption. Right. What is integrity?
Integrity means the data cannot be modified without authorization.
Perfect. This is the right answer. Make authorized persons can change the data. And when we say data, you have to understand three different situations. I don't know if you know it or not, but I will try to cover it very quickly. We have something called data at rest, and data in use, and data in transient. Did you hear these expressions before?
Yes.
What is data at rest?
Data at rest is the data that is saved on the machine.
Excellent. It may be machines, maybe servers, maybe storage, whatever it is. When it's already stored, it's not used, and it's idle. Okay. What is data in transient?
Data that is moving from one place to another.
Excellent. It can transfer through local networks, through the internet, from one machine to another, whatever it is. Finally, what is data in use?
It's processing.
You are right. It's processing. It may be there are some data on a database and there is an application. It's doing some data processing. Then it will take the data, process it, and return it or store it back in the database. Thank you very much. Excellent. This perfect answer. Okay, then the last point, it will be the availability. And of course, you know what is availability? Availability that the data, it should be available for authorized person 24/7 by 365. Why did we highlight these expressions here in the supplier relationship? What is the point? The point that ISO 27001, it wants to certify the ISMS to manage and protect the data. And the supplier, we have to make sure that all our servers are secure and their data also is secure. Then just imagine our supplier who is providing us the notebooks or the desktops or whatever any components for our operation is out of business. What will happen to our business? It will be down for some time.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
What I am saying now, suppose that you are your supplier who is provide you with the PCs or the desktops, he is out of business. He closed. Then, how this it will affect you?
I will be out of business too.
Yes, you will be out of business for some time until you will be able to secure another partner or supplier which it will supply you the information. And in terms of security, this it will affect what?
Availability.
Excellent. And this is the reason why did I explain the CIA. When by the end of the day, all these controls from A5 to A18, you will find that we are dealing with mainly three different terminologies: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. When we say security, you will find in ISO 27001, in NIST, in GDPR, in whatever, just to name it. The main concern is CIAA. The new terminology, which it is mentioned now in the new concept, it's called authenticity. And again, my friends, you will find a video in our YouTube channel. We are, it's called, as I can remember, the, اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد, security pillars. Yes, security pillars. This is a video for 15 or 20 minutes. We are speaking and explaining in details the security pillars. Security pillars are CIAA: confidentiality, integrity, authenticity, and availability and authenticity. These are the 4 points which we are explain them in more details, and also I gave an example about an organization, sales department, and we have customers and all this stuff. This is a very nice video. I think you will enjoy it and you will get the concept very easy. Okay. Thank you very much for your interactive discussion. It was really great, and you are encouraging me to give you more and more information. Okay. Any questions?
No, thank you.
No, doctor, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Let's go to the annex number 16, the incident management. Okay, just as a quick point, do you know what is the difference between event and incident?
Event may be anything in the system, like transferring data, it's an event. But an accident, like interfering this transmitted data, or this data has been dropped, this is an incident.
Okay.
A harmful event?
Sorry?
The harmful event would be called incident?
You are right, yes. Right. Event, it's called identified occurrence. We have something unusual, identified occurrence, something happened. It may have negative effect on the security or may not have. We have to make analysis for it. If we make the analysis and we discover that it have a bad effect or harm effect on the security, then it will be as an incident. And we have to work with the incident management to resolve this problem and to respond for this problem. طيب. Another concept which I want to make sure that you have, which is very important. It may be related to ITIL, but it's very involved in security. What is the difference between incident management and problem management?
Okay, maybe incidents, I think that you need to handle it first. It's very important, and it's happened يعني كده فجأة. Okay. And when we set the problem, maybe it's happened during every day. يعني. We didn't have to make it كده surprise, يعني, like incident.
Okay. Any other opinion?
Yes, I do. Can we say that incident management is more about like focus on addressing the incident, and the problem management is more about focusing on preventing the incident?
Both of you are very close to the right answer. Incident management, my friends. Okay. Incident management, it's concentrate on responding to the event. I want to recover the service as soon as possible. The incident
You
management.
can say about it, Doctor, the procedures that we can use.
It can be procedures, it can be high availability, it can be disaster recovery, it can be business continuity. We have a lot of things, but the main point, I want to recover the services as soon as possible. For example, suppose that I have a server and this server suddenly is down. Then the incident management team, they immediately get the second server, restore the data, restore the backup, and put it live for the operation. They did not check the cause of the problem. But their main concern, I want to recover the service as soon as possible. Then it will go to the problem management. Problem management, it has to check what is the problem, why the server is down. And they have to update the procedures, or they have to create new processes and procedures to prevent that this incident happened again. You can see here, of course, when we say incident management, you must have an incident management program, and this, it should define the responsibilities and the procedures, and you have to define what does the incident mean, definition of incident. You have to define the responsible person for reporting and managing the incidents, who is the contact person for reporting the incidents and events. Usually, you will have something called IRT. Did you hear about this expression before, IRT?
Incident response team.
Right, incident response team. They are responsible to respond for detect the event, analyze it. If it's have a bad effect, then it will be an incident. Respond for it. Escalated to problem management if they are not able to discover the the problem, and so on. And these are the people who will be responsible to recover the service. And after that, we have to monitor, detect the incident and events, and we have to find out the controls or the processes or the activities which it will prevent the incident from recurrence again. And this, finally, we have to define the learned lessons. This is very important, the learned lessons. As you remember yesterday when I told you the documents for monitoring and measurement, it's one of the mandatory documents for the ISO 27001. Any questions? Okay. We have annex number 17. The annex number 17, it is a business continuity. And again, business continuity, this part of the security. How I consider business continuity a part of security? Yani, suppose that you visit a company, one of your customers, and you found that they have a big discussion. Is business continuity under security or not? What's your opinion?
I think yes. Because it's directly linked, I think yes, because it's directly linked to availability.
Excellent. This is the right answer. Yes, business continuity, it's a part of security. It's a part of security. Why? Because as your friend mentioned right now, it affects the availability. It will affect the availability. Although, by the way, business continuity, it can affect other points as well, because if it's affected the availability and the data is leaked, it can affect the confidentiality. And you know, we can work together and we can show that it can affect the CIA. But mainly, yes, it's very clear it will affect the availability. And in ISO 27001, we have to make sure that the business continuity controls are valid. Let me ask you, what is disaster recovery? What is disaster recovery?
Can we say, Doctor, about it's the plan B?
Okay, any other opinion?
It's retrieving everything that was lost during a disaster.
What do you mean by disaster?
Something extremely bad that happened to
Okay,
the company or they saw.
okay,
The incident that cannot be contained, we will call it a disaster.
okay, excellent, excellent. Let me put it to you in a very simple way, my friends. Business continuity and disaster recovery. I challenge a lot of engineers who are working in our field to give you a proper explanation or definition between both of them. Unfortunately, this is one of the points which we have a misleading or misunderstanding for it. Business continuity, the objective of the business continuity, that your business is up and running, whatever the conditions. Let me ask you another question. I know today I am asking a lot of questions, but you are giving great answers. Did you hear about this expression, HA? What is HA?
Human activities.
Sorry?
Human
I
activities.
did not hear you.
Human activities.
No. It's high availability. High availability. What is high availability? Business continuity, it's caring about keeping the business up and running. We have different approaches here. Number one, I have a core switch. This core switch, it is serving 1,000 users of the organization. Then, okay, what will happen if this core switch, power supply of the core switch is down? Then this means that it will be, the whole network, it will be down. Fine. I can work and add second power supply. Then I can have two power supply. When one of them is down, the second, it will take over. Great. But what will happen if the motherboard, it's down? Then this means that I can have a second core switch and keep both of them active standby or active, whatever the topology which you will use to configure both switches. Now we are keeping business continuity. Great, now you have two switches. If one is down, the second one will take over. Like, what will happen if the power source is down, SCICO is down in the area? Then, okay, I have, as we mentioned in the annex, I cannot remember, maybe 12 or 11 in the physical and in environment security, that we must have what we call it, power generator. Okay, power generator, great. But unfortunately, the electricity, it was available for a long time. It was down for a long time, and we consumed all the diesel, and the power generator is down. Then, and we don't think that the power, it will come quickly. Then, okay, in business continuity, I would say, my friends, forget about IT. There is no way for it. Let's go to the normal papers and do our exercise on a paper. If you are printing invoices, then get the invoice book and type the write the invoice by hand and deliver it to your customer, because the customer, he will not buy your products except if you have the invoice for the warranty. Then this means that even we can drop the automated part of the IT and go to manually, but by the end of the day, for the business owner, their business is up and running. Although it may be affected, but it's up and running. In the disaster recovery, as your friend mentioned now, this is something disaster. This means that the whole data center, it may be down. It may be, again, because of a natural event, for example, I think you are familiar with these disasters. Can you give me a disaster happened in Saudi Arabia before?
Maybe the one.
Can you
Yes,
repeat the
go
question,
ahead.
please?
I am asking you, can you give me an example of a natural disaster happened in Saudi Arabia?
There was a fire
Maybe
on
overheat.
the train station of Jeddah.
Fire where?
In the train station of Jeddah.
This is not, okay, this is disaster, it will affect the, you are right, you are right, because this fire, but I don't know if it caused the downtime for the data center, data center, it was not able to recover again. Anyway, if the data center, it was not able to recover and we have to restore it in someone else, yes, it will be disaster. But there is one popular and famous disaster happened, but I think you were young to know this. It was in 2010, I think, or maybe 2011, I am not sure. Did you hear about the flooding which affected Jeddah twice in 2010 and...
Yes, we remember.
Yes.
Yeah, this flooding at that time, I was living in Jeddah. I was working in Jeddah as well, in IT manager for Nahdi Pharmacies. And we had an office in Farsi Center, I remember, this is 2010, almost 11 years, but I think it's Farsi Center. In Farsi Center, our office, my friends, it was in 8th floor or 10th floor. Believe it or not, while we were standing in the windows, we are not able to see the tunnels. We are not able to see the main tunnels in King Abdulaziz Road, although it's a main road because water, it was covering totally these tunnels, and the cars were floating in the water, and this is considered as flood. And at that time, when we were speaking about the natural disaster, we were laughing. Saudi Arabia is away from the natural disasters. But when we faced this case, and most of the data centers were down. Why? Because some of them, we will have the power generators in the basements. You cannot imagine. All the basements in in Jeddah at that time were flooded. Some basements in the Farsi Center, it was 3 floors. All of them are flooded, and the power and the UPS and not UPS, I mean power generators, it was not able to up and running because it's flooded by water. Then this is the disaster. In this case, the original data center, it will not be able to work, and you have to fail over, to transfer all the services into another data center. It may be in different city or different country or whatever, or even now with the new technology, you can have it on the cloud. You can have it on the cloud when you will be able to run your business. This is the main difference between business continuity and the disaster recovery. And as you can see, all the controls, we are speaking about the same concept. Here the requirements in case of a crisis, because when in a crisis, don't think that you will have the same security controls as in the production. Of course not. You may sacrifice some of the security controls because this is not logic to have all of it up and running. Secure information security continuity. What do you need? You may need the firewalls, you may need IPS, you may need the what we call the anti-malware software and so on. Also, you have to exercise and make tests of these controls and disaster recovery plans. You have to make sure that this will be up and running in the case of a disaster. In some situations, there is a disaster without testing. I can challenge if you would be able to retrieve or fill over this service. It will not work. Also, you have to prepare redundancy, as we mentioned in the example of the power supply for the core switch, or you can have another core switch as overall. Okay, The last annex control, it's the compliance. And compliance, my friends, it's very easy, and I will try to summarize it in 2 different sentences. Compliance, internal compliance and external compliance. What do we mean? Internal compliance, I want to make sure that all the ISMS documentations and procedures are implemented as it's designed. I want to make sure that all these are compliant with all the security, ISMS security recommendations. Then all the people, there is no non-conformity, and we have monitoring, we have management review, internal audit, and so on. On the other hand, for compliance, I want to make sure that all the operations is compliant with the external laws and regulation. Yani, for example, in Saudi Arabia, we are compliant with the NCA, or if we are utilizing data for European citizens, for example, we must comply with the GDPR. Then this is the compliance. You have to make sure that this compliance it will be compliant with the internal and the external laws and regulation and policies and processes. Also, you have another point here, the contractual obligations. You may have some contractual obligation with the customers, with the vendors, partners. You have to protect their data. You have to comply with the legal and contractual requirements. These are which we call it the compliance in general. When the compliance, it will be compliance with the ISMS rules and policies, compliance for the contractual obligations, and for the laws and regulations, or for the NCA, for example. Finally, we finalized module 1. I don't want to tell you that module 1, it should be covered, all of it, in day number 1. Now we are in mid of day number 3, but frankly speaking, I don't feel sad, because most of you, we are interacting in a proper and good and excellent way. Then no problem. And as we agreed with Dr. Naveed that we may need to extend this training for a little bit, and this it will be for your benefits. And inshallah, we will have a good training course.
How many modules do you have? How many modules do we have?
Do you remember this slide? Can you see it, or I stopped here? We have 10 modules. Of course, module number 2 is very small. It will be covered within maybe less than 5-10 minutes. And module 3, 4, 5, this it will be long. But by the way, just I want to tell you something. Module number 1, it was full of theory, and it was complicated. I know we explained a lot of things, and it makes life very difficult, and most of us hate ISO 27001. I know this very well. And by the way, I hate module number 1 myself as well. But when we will start in module number 3, we will start to implement all what we studied practically from module number 3. We explain what is the organization context. Well, I will show you how you can analyze it. We will have a lot of discussion. We have to make all this discussion together. Then you will find it will be very interesting starting from module number 2. It will not be a theory and requirements and all this stuff. It will be very interesting after that. Okay? Any questions?
Mr. Osama, we received the recording on YouTube, but I want to ask about the material itself. I mean, how can we get it?
Wallahi, I am not sure that I will be able to share the material. Anyway, let me discuss this with Dr. Naveed, and I don't want to take decisions on my own. I will request a meeting with Dr. Naveed to discuss this with them and update you.
Okay, thank you.
You are most welcome. Okay, this is the time of Maghrib prayer in Eastern Province. If you don't mind, I will have 10 minutes and we will come back. I promise, starting from now, it will be very interactive session, very interesting, because we will apply all the theory and we will start to understand exactly what the ISO 2700 it can do. Okay, thank you very much. I will see you within 10 minutes. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.